last night. Meanwhile, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal lashed out at the opposition, especially Rahul Gandhi, for only nitpicking, while the entire nation is hailing Prime Minister Modi for the historical deal. Listen in to what he had to say, but also let's in a bit break down for you what this tariff truce is all about, and we'll bring you the inside scoop as we are getting exclusive information from our sources. But let's listen in to the reactions that have come in.
यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका के साथ एक बहुत ही बढ़िया ट्रेड डील, जिसका देशवासियों को कई महीनों से इंतजार था, संपन्न किया है। भारत के भविष्य को चार चांद लगाने वाला ट्रेड डील माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में कल रात फाइनलाइज किया गया है। ये जो ट्रेड डील की गई है, ये मात्र एक ट्रेड डील नहीं है, ये एक पड़ाव है भारत के उज्जवल भविष्य का। ये आगे आने वाले दिनों का शुभ संकेत है, जब भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था और तेजी से आगे बढ़ेगी। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने हमेशा एग्रीकल्चर और डेयरी, इन दोनों सेक्टर्स को संभाला है, उनके हितों को संभाला है, और इस क्षेत्र में लोगों को उज्जवल भविष्य मिले और मौके मिले, आमदनी बढ़े, उसके लिए लगातार काम किया है।
मेन बात यह है कि हमारे प्रधानमंत्री को कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर दिया गया है, और हिंदुस्तान के जो किसान हैं, आप सब समझिए कि इस ट्रेड डील में आपकी मेहनत को, आपके खून पसीने को नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने बेच दिया है। और वो इसलिए बेचा है क्योंकि ये कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड है। सिर्फ आपको नहीं बेचा है, देश को बेचा है। इसीलिए मुझे वहां नहीं बोलने देना।
बड़ा दुर्भाग्य है कि राहुल गांधी जैसे नकारात्मक सोच रखने वाले नेता देश को आज गुमराह या भ्रमित करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। मैं घोर निंदा करता हूं राहुल गांधी जी की। झूठ और फरेब के नाम पे वो लोगों को गुमराह करना चाहते हैं। उनको देश की तरक्की से कोई लेना देना नहीं है। राहुल गांधी जी को क्या मिर्ची लगती है? राहुल गांधी जी को देश की प्रगति से नफरत है, और उनके साथ जुड़कर डीएमके पार्टी के नेता हो, तृणमूल के नेता हो, उन्होंने जवाब देना पड़ेगा देश की जनता को कि इस नकारात्मक सोच के पीछे वो क्या चाहते हैं। यहां तक कि कुछ दिन पहले तक विपक्ष के नेता भी हमें पूछ रहे थे कि कब होगा यूएस डील, और मैं हैरान हूं, ये डबल स्टैंडर्ड्स जो राहुल गांधी जी बार बार दिखाते हैं।
All right, so Kritsween, important for our viewers also to break down what this tariff truce, as it's being called, is going to be all about. In fact, CNN News 18 has been getting you exclusive information, and the inside scoop we can tell you is that this information that in fact was announced by Prime Minister Modi and the US President is also indicative that the India-US Phase 1 of trade deal has been agreed upon. So this is the very first tranche, Kritsween, that they were discussing and was expected to arrive in fall of last year.
But there's no clear timeline here, Akanksha, isn't
Yes.
it? We don't know when
Thank
finally
you
are
for
we going to see
highlighting that, because as they say, the devil lies in the details. So working on finalizing that joint statement about the first tranche of this trade agreement, $30 billion of the Indian exports face 18% tariff now. That's been brought down from 50%. It's also going to impact the labor-intensive exports. They're going to gain a competitive edge. And why so? Because you're looking at India competing with other manufacturing hubs like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Indonesia. They are smaller countries, but now the advantage with India is that we stand at a lower tariff than these countries, even China. There's no change in Section 232 of the tariff sectors, particularly that alludes to iron and steel. And that remains unchanged. India intends to buy more US oil, LNG, planes, metals. Purchases from US in several sectors are going to take place over 5 years. The purchase of $500 billion worth US products has been pledged by the Indian Prime Minister to the US President, something he, of course, was
So As is now
about.
saying that this may have indeed been promised by the Prime Minister.
Right, because you're looking at tech, you're looking at coal, energy, all of these sectors in which India is going to also spend extra, which also shows our own might in terms of the size of the economy. And $44 billion of products remain tariff exempt, no change. Pharma, phones, minerals exempted from tariffs. The red lines currently from the Indian side, what we are being told, remain as far as sectors of dairy and agriculture are concerned. This is what government sources have told CNN News 18 and was also perhaps reiterated by Commerce
And
Minister
agriculture,
Piyush Goyal.
dairy were also the biggest hurdle so far. The last so many months, this was one of the biggest reasons why we could
India has
not see.
always been very protective. If you look at the EU FTA also, India managed to have EU steer clear of the agricultural sector, even dairy, and they were very respectful of that. So this could be a bone of contention, given that Donald Trump has very much assured his own audience that they will be increasing their agricultural and dairy exports. On that note, breaking news coming in. Over to you, Kriti.
Let's put out details of all that's transpired late last night. Of course, this is IST we're talking about. So External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar also did meet Secretary Marco Rubio. That meeting was being spoken of the last so many hours. Finally, this meeting shaping up. Both discussed formalizing bilateral cooperation on critical minerals, exploration, mining, processing. The two leaders emphasized the importance of their respective democracies working together to unlock new economic opportunities and also advance their shared energy security goals. Energy security being the key word here, even when we talk about the India-US trade agreement, which is still in the works. US Department of State says Secretary Rubio and Minister Jaishankar acknowledged that a prosperous Indo-Pacific region remains vital to advancing our shared interests. In fact, Minister S. Jaishankar has also taken to social media just a short while ago, and he's spoken of the successful interaction with his counterpart, Secretary Rubio. He says that the India-US strategic partnership was discussed, including trade, energy, nuclear, defense, critical minerals, technology. These were some of the areas that were brought to the table, Akanksha. But so much was being spoken of whether we will see a conversation shaping up around the trade deal, the announcement that came from the Prime Minister.
I think that also is an indication of what a tricky tightrope walk this has been for India. And while we've seen the US press secretary from Caroline Leavitt to their trade representative Thomas and Greer and the US president himself, they all have been extremely chatty about the discussions, but there's been no official readout whether from the Commerce Ministry or the External Affairs Ministry. But you know, to come back to what we are discussing right now, it is the Critical Minerals Ministerial that has just taken place hours ago between US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar. Now, what's interesting over here, Kritsween, is that there were member nations, around 50 of them, and prior to that ministerial that took place, Dr. Jaishankar also had a one-on-one with Mr. Rubio, and you know, this is a very critical, as I say, it's a critical minerals ministerial happening at a very critical juncture. Why so? Because we all know the role that rare earth minerals are playing. India has one of the largest reserves in the world of rare earth minerals, and both United States and India are looking towards challenging China's dominance when it comes to the sector of rare earth minerals. Remember, when it came to tariffs, China used that as a bargaining chip to put Donald Trump and the United States in line.
Akanksha, it's very interesting. So this conversation taking place in Washington, but The telephone conversation between the Prime Minister and President Trump has been the only official confirmation that's come in so far on the trade deal that we should say
and
is still shaping up.
What's very interesting is the nuanced message that came out from Prime Minister Modi. He's not even called it a deal, but the US President did. And
the Prime Minister's mostly just spoken about Make in India and what this means for Make in India going forward. So not too many details, not really giving into everything that's been revealed by President Donald Trump, which is a sign in itself.
Absolutely. And there was no confirmation coming in from the Indian side with regards to our purchase of Russian oil. And that is, in fact, just yesterday during the course of the day, we had the Kremlin come out with a statement saying that we have no formal communication from India with regards to them stopping their purchase of Russian oil. So how India intends to move forward in that direction is going to be interesting to see, given that the US President has already made these tall claims of how India will now looking towards buying more of Venezuelan and US oil. And will these two countries be able to meet our energy requirements, given that we are a country of 1.4 billion people population, is the big concern right now. And many are also saying that perhaps it's an indication that we are looking towards an end as far as Russia and Ukraine war is concerned. And maybe, for all you know, the silver lining is that the sanctions are eventually lifted from Russia and India continues to trade. But that's, of course, one of the more optimistic outlooks over here.
You know, Akanksha, if we were to indeed believe that there's been no compromise whatsoever on the sensitive sectors like agriculture and dairy, because that really essentially had been the roadblock all this while, what may have prompted President Trump to reach to this point is what's being decoded. Everyone's kind of wrapping their heads around how did this even happen. A lot of experts have weighed in on how India at the moment was not really positioned in a way that it needed US's assistance. Yes, US is a key market and is of huge interest to the Indian economy, but with the EU-India FTA, with the relationship, the economic relationship we have with the other neighbors in the region, India wasn't looking weak exactly. So
that's a key point you made. And you know, it's of course the EU FTA so far, as Ursula von der Leyen called it, is the mother of all deals. But India's own footprint when it comes to say these FTAs is increasing, which is the heartening part of it. So I think the US President is also waking up to the reality that in these turbulent geopolitical and geoeconomic times, he needs to cling on to his allies instead of pushing them further. And let's not forget the fact that on one hand, he has this very influential MAGA base that he has to cater to. But on the other hand, you also have the Indian American community, which has been galvanizing pro-India opinion. They've also been rallying for India. And on that note, we in fact at CNN News 18 had a chat with Congressman Ami Bera from the United States. Remember, he's a Democrat MP. Listen in to what the role the Indian American community has played, and more importantly, this announcement, what this could mean now going forward as far as trade with the United States is concerned. Congressman Ami Bera, thank you so much for joining in on CNN News 18. Let's begin with the big breakthrough, which is the reduction of a whopping 50% tariff being brought down to 18%. What are your thoughts, and how do you see the challenges ahead now, given that they have arrived upon this agreement, but the deal is yet to be hammered out?
You know, I think this is a real positive step. When I was in India in September, all we talked about was the 50% tariffs. So we're in a much better place today. I saw Prime Minister Modi's comments yesterday, President Trump's comments. And yes, there's still a lot to be worked out in the details of this deal, but it's a much better place for the two biggest democracies in the world to be.
So there's a lot of concern over here that even though India has given that assurance that it will stop buying Russian crude oil, will the United States and Venezuela, especially with its completely dilapidated oil market at the moment, be able to meet the kind of needs that India being the largest democracy currently has with a 1.4 billion people's population?
You know, I don't think India is going to be able to just turn off its dependence on Russian oil. But if you start to see movement where they're reducing their reliance on imports of Russian oil and finding new markets like Venezuela and elsewhere where they're able to meet their energy needs, that's a positive step in the right direction. That helps stabilize Venezuela. That'll take time, as you already pointed out. The infrastructure needs to be rebuilt. But again, if that goes in that direction, that's a positive. And there's still a lot more to work on, critical minerals, pharmaceuticals, supply chains. Indian companies are making massive investments in the United States. U.S. companies now will start making those investments in India. And again, I think this is a positive first step.
So the United States, under the current Trump administration, has maintained that the way to strategic cooperation is via economic cooperation. Henceforth, India will also be now joining the Pax Silica. On that note, how do you see things moving forward, especially, say, when it comes to the sector of critical minerals? Dr. Jaishankar is very much in Washington. He'll be attending that critical minerals ministerial at the State Department. What can one expect, especially with the United States and India joining hands in countering China's dominance when it comes to rare earth minerals and securing supply chains?
So I think this is a huge opportunity for India. As we start to open up mining, we start to produce supplies of these critical minerals, these rare earth elements. We're still very beholden on the refining capacity of China. I do think if the United States, Japan, other countries come together, this is a potential area where India can build out a brand new industry, perhaps in the refining sector. Again, we've introduced legislation, bipartisan, the Dominance Act, to use the critical mineral partnership here in the United States to work with countries like India and elsewhere to develop the refining capacity.
Do you think India's increasing footprint in the number of FTAs it has forged, especially in the year gone by, and the most recent being the one with EU, where India's opened the floodgates, say, to a 27-member trading bloc, has that given India a kind of leverage and changed the way Washington is looking at trade with New Delhi?
Sure. I mean, I think this does give India some leverage. It opens up India's export markets, but also what I noticed when I was in India in September is just the growth of their own domestic market. So they're not just reliant on exports. You have a rising middle class that is increasingly consuming Indian products. So, again, I think these trade deals are good for India. They're good for the United States. They reduce those tariff barriers. And we've been trying in my 14 years to get a trade deal. It's always been elusive with India. And hopefully this is a good first step.
At a time, Donald Trump's MAGA base has really, been drawing the lines in the sand. What is the role that the Indian American diaspora, such as you as well, have played in bringing Washington and New Delhi on the same page?
Look, we've seen some of the attacks from the MAGA base on the Indian American diaspora, myself personally included, some of the attacks online. That said, the diaspora has started to step up, has started to galvanize around wanting a strong U.S.-India relationship. We saw some of the comments that said it was time for the diaspora to step up and be more actively engaged. I think you're starting to see the diaspora say, hey, wait a minute, this is a critical partnership. We still have things that we need to work on. There's the issue of H-1Bs and $100,000 fees. I hope that's the next thing we can work with the Trump administration to resolve.
Glad you brought that up. And that's why I want to ask you, there's now focus also going back on what happens to Quad. So far, it's been lying dormant. India was all set to play host to the Quad summit. Can we expect a renewed focus coming from Washington when it comes to security in the Indo-Pacific?
It's still my hope that India hosts the Quad Leaders Summit, that President Trump attends in India. Now that you have the contours of a trade deal, I think this would be the perfect time for the president and Prime Minister Modi to resume what historically has been a very positive relationship and start talking about that again with Australia, with Japan. Critical minerals would be an area that's of concern to all of the countries, building out the pharmaceutical capacity, the supply chains, looking at AI, looking at things that we could do together. And then I would toss in, again, we still have to resolve the H-1B issue.
Congressman, my last question. How do you see India being placed on the tariff order, especially in terms of South Asian and Southeast Asian economies? We are lower on the entire ladder, say, compared to Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Indonesia, even China. Most of these countries, say, including Bangladesh, Vietnam, Indonesia, India has been competing with in terms as a manufacturing hub. Does that also indicate Washington's faith and trust in the Indian economy?
Yeah, from the Washington, D.C. perspective, Congress's perspective, for 3 decades, we've been focused on the U.S.-India relationship, going back to President Clinton, through President Bush, Obama, and President Trump's first term to President Biden. So I'm glad to see this trajectory. We recognize that how big the Indian markets are, how fast the economy is growing. So compared to the other nations in the region, India does take some primacy here.
All right. Thank you so much, Congressman Ami Bera, for joining. It was a pleasure having you here on CNN News 18. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Be well.
Bye-bye.
All right, more breaking news coming in amid lots of developments on the India-US trade deal front. Also, reactions come in from Chinese ambassador to India. He says India-China trade reached record high of $155.6 billion in 2025 alone. He's also spoken of our bilateral relations have continued to improve. This is the Chinese ambassador to India, Xu Feihong, who's also given a little bit of a reminder to the world of the meeting that took place between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping in Tianjin in August last year. But let's hear it from him.
Last August, President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a successful meeting in Tianjin, which leads China-India relations from a reset and a fresh start to a new level of improvement. Exchanges at all levels have become more frequent. Economic and trade cooperation has reached new heights. People-to-people exchanges have become more active. The bilateral relations have continued to improve. In 2025, bilateral trade between China and India reaches a record high of $155.6 billion, registering a year-on-year growth of over 12%. India's exports to China grew by 9.7%, demonstrating the vast potential of economic and trade cooperation between the two countries.
Akanksha, very interesting comment. Would you want to read a little more into the timing? Because we're yet to see that in action. But if we were to just go by details we have so far with this US deal, seeing the light of the day, this does mean that India will have an added advantage over China or Pakistan or Bangladesh for that matter.
Diplomacy is all about reading between the lines. And that's the timing cannot be unmissed over here, given that Ambassador Xu Feihong has also referred to Prime Minister Modi's meeting in Tianjin with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Let's not forget the fact that he's also said that India-China relations have moved from, say, a reset to a new level of improvement. And that also goes on to indicate that that reminder of Tianjin is coming on a day when all of Indian and American media were abuzz with talk of this first tranche of the bilateral trade agreement being finalized between the two heads of state. There's a conscious effort being made by the Chinese ambassador over there to court the growing bilateral trade between India and China. More importantly, Ambassador Xu Feihong also referred to the civilizational commonalities that India and China share. And that, in fact, arrived as a reminder because Ambassador Xu Feihong has also said that just like China, which believes in the world being one, India believes in the philosophy of Vasudev Kutumbakam. And he's also alluded to the common civilizational historic ties in terms of religion. And he also spoke about how Flights have resumed between both the countries. So there was an overall sense, Kritsween, in terms of how both the countries are looking forward to, say, an increase in not just bilateral trade, but also in commonalities in the relationship. And that is something that China has always maintained, that India and China share a lot more in common than perhaps India and the United States. So the indications are kind of hard to miss.
Okay, great. You know, what we're going to keep doing is, while we keep talking about reactions that are coming in from around the world, especially closely watching what this could mean, not just for India and US, but South Asian countries and worldwide, because EU and India have signed the FTA, and that we're still not over that, comes this big news already. All right, keeping our focus with the trade deal fine print, let's quickly give you a recap, talk about the big takeaways. Takeaway number one. There is going to be no compromise on farm or dairy sectors, as is being speculated by many, especially the opposition in India. The second big takeaway is interests of farmers will be protected. That is a sensitive area, a key area of concern, especially given how we've seen non-stop farmer protests also in the country. So that stands protected too, is what top sources in the government so far have indicated. Of course, finalities are going to decide how the story is going to be carried forwarded. But the third big takeaway is people first policy on oil purchase. So wherever we get good rates is what we're going to turn towards. So
and one also has to keep in mind, Kritsween, that they are looking towards a mutually beneficial deal. So just like the way EU did, we opened our markets to their spirits, to their wines, to their cheese, primarily Gouda cheese from the Netherlands. And so, you know, that's mutually beneficial, because these are products that the Indian market can certainly afford to have and is not going to infringe on the rights of our sensitive sectors.
And Russia is an all-weather ally. More than that, I mean, India will not want to, don't you think, be in a position where it's cutting all ties with Russia on this front?
Well, so far what we're being told is that, and in fact, what was heartening was also the statement that was coming in from the Kremlin, which says that, you know, we still have faith and confidence in India. So even if India were to stop buying Russian crude oil, which it only began as recently as 2022, it will make up for it with its purchases of defense equipment. That has been a historic sort of tie with Moscow.
So very clear, India will choose markets that provide best prices. The next big takeaway being spoken of is $500 billion investment in US sectors. It was first spoken of by Donald Trump. How far India is willing to take it is something time will tell. But
we'll have to see, because time is of the essence, and in this very deeply divided geopolitical climate where we are seeing the world has been plagued by conflicts, whether it is Gaza or you're looking at the war in Ukraine, which of course has impacted the supply chains and of course our oil needs as well in terms of energy. We'll have to see how India wants to take this forward, given that EU itself is still phasing out its purchases of Russian oil. But yes, I can tell you that Russian oil remains that bone of contention when it comes to striking that deal with the United States. We'll have to see as a formal announcement is awaited and the nitty-gritties are yet to be finalized.
With that, we head into a very quick break. Our non-stop rolling coverage continues here on CNN News 18. On the other side, we'll be shifting our focus to other breaking news updates as well. We'll be right back.
Inside details that are now being revealed to us by top government sources. CNN News 18, your channel viewers, the one which has always kept you ahead on this story, that no compromises will be made on the interests of Indian farmers and dairy-sensitive sectors. These sectors will remain protected, and that's a commitment that this government has made to the electorate and to all those constituencies who are involved in these sensitive sectors. Be buying oil from non-sanctioned entities only.
The discounts on Russian oil had come down substantially in the last year or so. Since Rosneft and Lukoil, the two biggest Russian oil producers, were sanctioned internationally, it just didn't make sense to buy.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
And shifting focus, some more breaking news. This is coming in from the state of Manipur. Now, Yamnan Khemchand will be the next Chief Minister of Manipur. After years of President's rule, he was elected to the Manipur Legislative Assembly from the Singjamai constituency in both 2017 and 2022. He's a two-time MLA. He also served as the Speaker of the Manipur Legislative Assembly from 2017 to 2022. In 2022, he was also appointed as a cabinet minister in the second Biren Singh government. So after a lot of political turmoil, now the new Chief Minister of Manipur has been picked, a former speaker, a former minister in the state government and a two-time MLA. Yamnan Khemchand will be the next Chief Minister of Manipur. So some semblance of political stability coming to the fore in the state of Manipur after so much strife and President's rule. I'm joined by my colleague Kamalka Sengupta on the broadcast. Kamalka, decode the calculation beyond when it comes to the appointment of Yamnan Khemchand.
Well, definitely this is something, a very big breakthrough, and the most important thing here is the balance. Here we can see that the Chief Minister is Yamnan Khemchand, who is a Metis. You see the Deputy Chief Minister's name kept in, who is from Pakoppi, and she is a Kuki. So this is, I think, the biggest break that the central leadership could do, that making the Metis and the Kuki sit in one table. And this is, I think, a big breakthrough which has come up with the situation that has been prevailing. We really need to get in that what is the ground reality right now and what are the reactions that are coming from both the camps, because this definitely a very positive point where the government formation takes place. Chief Minister, who is from the Met community, the deputy came from the Kuki community. Let me tell you, Khemchand was known as the first who is the Biren Singh. That is also very important, because how Biren was compelled to the Chief Minister. He was compelled to give his resignation. And Khemchand is one of those, that group, the leader of that group who wanted Biren Singh to step down. So obviously the twist is definitely there, but the biggest breakthrough definitely is that the Metis and Kukis coming together and formation of the government, because 430 it was managed. Otherwise, the president's rule would have, they would have sent the president, and that could have political also, because next election. So definitely, we'll have to see what is the reaction to the ground. Where the Kukis are really happy with this deputy minister's post, but obviously a big breakthrough where again Manipur will see a government where the CM is Yamnan Khemchand, a very veteran leader, former speaker, and also known to be a person who is against former.
Right, Kamalka, stay with us. Just to recap for our viewers, this is another big development, as Kamalka is also pointing out. Nemcha Kipgen, a Kuki Zo MLA from the Kangpokpi area, is likely to be appointed the Deputy Chief Minister. So you will have she will be the first woman and the first Kuki Zo to hold that coveted post of Deputy Chief Minister. Also, what we are learning is that another Deputy Chief Minister is likely to be from the Naga People's Front, the BJP's alliance partner. So, Kamalka, clearly a lot of calculations going into these appointments, the Deputy Chief Minister and the Chief Minister, to ensure that the communal turbulence is kept in check.
Definitely, Naga and then the Kukis, specifically the Metis and the Kukis. And let me tell you, Home Minister will be Govindas Kontajam, who is also very important. He has very strong, contender for the post of Chief Minister. His name was coming for the last 2 days. But Yamnan Khemchand actually will become the Chief Minister. So if we see, we'll have to really see that how the cabinet is being planned. As we know that they'll go back and obviously this discussion will take place. We have to make a cabinet which shows the right traffic of Manipur, both the plains and the hills. That's going to be the biggest challenge.
Right.
Because we know that how the two sides are divided.
Right. Thank you, Kamalka, for sharing that for us. So as you can see, the modalities of power and the key posts are being filled by the BJP and its alliance partners. So you will have the next Manipur Chief Minister has been picked. He is a two-time MLA who has served as Speaker of the State Assembly and has also served as a minister in the Biren Singh government. Yumnam Khemchand will be the next Chief Minister of Manipur. And as my colleague Kamalka was pointing out, reports suggest that Nemcha Kikpen, a Kuki-Zo MLA from Kangpokpi, is likely to be...
Welcome back. A heated showdown erupted in Lok Sabha when Rahul Gandhi insisted on referencing former Army Chief General M.M. Naravne's unpublished memoir, sparking a lot of chaos in Parliament. 8 opposition MPs, 7 from the Congress, 1 from CPM, were suspended for unruly behaviour, throwing papers, climbing tables and addressing the chair as quote-unquote yar. Now, the suspended MPs include Hibby Eden, Amrinder Singh Raja Waring, Manikam Tagore, Gurjeet Singh Ojla, Prashant Padole, also Dean Kuriakose, Chamla Kiran Kumar Reddy and S. Venkatesan from the CPM. Rahul Gandhi later wrote to Speaker Om Birla claiming he's being silenced on national security matters and also called this a blot on democracy. The government defended the suspension, accusing Rahul Gandhi of misleading the House by quoting unauthenticated documents. First up, let's hear it from Rahul Gandhi, what his objections were and how this played out in the Parliament yesterday.
Speaker, sir, if the issue is about me quoting a magazine, which I have authenticated, I am happy not to quote it directly. No problem. But I have to be allowed to speak about it.
Yeah. Honorable LOP,
You have,
Shri
Speaker,
Rahul
sir.
Gandhi ji,
Chairman,
please
sir. Chairman,
listen.
sir. Chairman, sir.
You have been given permission to speak on the Honorable President's speech.
I am speaking.
What are you telling?
What permission are telling to LOP? Chairman, sir, I am objecting to the word permission. That is not the correct word because I am not given permission by anyone. I am leader of opposition. So I am just objecting to that. And all I am saying is I want to make a statement about what happened between China and India and how our Prime Minister reacted to it. Why am I being stopped? Sir, in Ladakh, in eastern Ladakh, there was a conflict. Our soldiers were killed.
It's very unfortunate that Parliament has been treated like this by Mr. Modi and Amit Shah. They wanted to demolish the parliamentary procedures. They are not allowing the leader of opposition to speak in the parliament. Whole day yesterday, his speech was not allowed. 4 hours his time was allotted for Congress party. He was not allowed to speak.
100% it's wrong. जब तक उन्होंने बिल्कुल हमें प्रवोक नहीं किया, हम तब तक अंदर नहीं गए. हम सुनते रहे, रिक्वेस्ट करते रहे, हाथ जोड़ते रहे कि प्लीज let LOP speak.
Honorable opposition leader tries to raise his voice, but unfortunately it was not allowed. It was then we started our protest, raising our slogans, and we got onto the table. So it was purely in a democratic manner. When he was denied and other speakers were given the right to speak, we objected it.
Sir, what really transpired today, because we saw somebody talking to you very disrespectfully?
While the house was going on, somebody mentioned addressing the chair as yar, so which I thought is not correct because there has to be decorum in the house, and somebody else was supporting that. What's wrong in it? So I was calling for maintenance of decorum. That's what it says.
Raja Waring says he did not call you yar, and he said nobody called you yar. It is just that the NDA is playing games against them.
I think they'll be recording the videos, they'll play it and see who said what.
देखो, इस विषय पे मैं बहुत बता चुका हूं, सदन में भी मैंने कहा है कि राहुल गांधी बार बार सेम चीज रिपीट करता है कि बोलने नहीं देते हैं और हम लोग उल्टा उसको कह रहे हैं कि आप बोलिए. वो बोलता है नियम से बाहर बोलेंगे. जो लोकसभा राज्यसभा में जो रूल्स ऑफ बिजनेस प्रोसीजर है ना, जो कंडक्ट करने का रूल्स होते हैं, ये रूल्स हमने नहीं बनाया, ये रूल्स राहुल गांधी जी के दादा दादी के समय में बनाया है।
क्या कहेंगे मैम आप? रिडिक्युलस है एकदम, लोकतंत्र है, सबको बोलने की इजाजत होनी चाहिए, सबकी बात सुननी चाहिए।
क्या कहेंगे मैम आप?
रिडिक्युलस है एकदम, लोकतंत्र है, सबको बोलने की इजाजत होनी चाहिए, सबकी बात सुननी चाहिए।
हमें एंटी नेशनल बताया। एंटी नेशनल वो होते हैं जो पहली बार देश के इतिहास में डीएस्केलेशन का ऑर्डर यूएस से लेते हैं। एंटी नेशनल वो होते हैं जो नेशनल इंटरेस्ट को ताक पर रखकर रशियन ऑयल से लेकर ईरानियन ऑयल से लेकर चाबहार पोर्ट तक बाहर रहने को तैयार हो जाते हैं। एंटी नेशनल वो होते हैं जो 0% टैरिफ हमने यूएस के प्रोडक्ट्स को लगाते हैं और 18% टैरिफ लगाने को कबूल हैं। मैं आज तक मैंने कभी भी फॉरेन पॉलिसी पे कभी ऐसा बयान नहीं दिया, पर मैं इसलिए दे रही हूँ क्योंकि ये नेशनल इंटरेस्ट के खिलाफ है। आप उसके लिए हमें एंटी नेशनल कहिएगा। एंटी नेशनल शायद यूएस के पैमाने से हो सकते हैं, पर इंडिया के पैमाने पे हम देश को आगे रखकर देश के हित में बात कर रहे हैं।
And shifting focus to more news coming in, the Karnataka excise scam triggered an overnight dharna inside the Vidhan Sauda by BJP and JDS MLAs who are demanding that resignation of Excise Minister R.B. Timapur following a Lokayukta liquor probe over corruption charges and allegations against him in liquor licensing. The opposition alleged corruption worth 6,000 crore rupees, citing a letter from Karnataka Wine Merchants Association, a Lokayukta trap of an excise official and an alleged audio clip naming the minister. The BJP leaders accused the Congress government and Chief Minister of shielding the minister, calling Karnataka an ATM for the Congress High Command. Let's hear all the reactions that have come in on this story.
See, as we all know, it's more than a 6,000 crore liquor scam that had taken place in last month. And the audio clip that had emerged, it has clearly mentioned the conversation between district excise commissioner as well as the agent, where the officer clearly mentioned the name of the minister also, excise minister. So BJP as well as JDS, we have demanded the resignation of excise minister. We have demanded the resignation on the floor of the house.
Before adjourning the assembly, they should have decided to dharna. But after adjourn the session, they are going to make dharna. That is not good. As per the rules, that is no value at all. Simply, there are some cooking stories are there, cook-up stories are there. If anything is there, CM would have taken action. There is nothing is there. That's why.
देखिए, जो एक्साइज मिनिस्टर तिमापुर है उसके बारे में जो करप्शन का चार्जेस आ चुका है, पिछले 3 महीने से उसके ऊपर मेजर चार्जेस आ रहा है। हमारा अपोजिशन लीडर अशोक जी इसके बारे में पूरा जो भी बयान बजता वो पूरा करने के बाद भी ही इज डिनाइंग, कुछ नहीं हुआ ऐसा कुछ बोलने का कोशिश कर रहे हैं। हमारा डिमांड है उसका रेजिग्नेशन दे देना चाहिए।
And moving on, amid the fuel control switch controversy, now aviation regulator DGCA has indicated that improper handling rather than a mechanical fault may have played a role. The watchdog has advised Air India to reinforce crew training on correct operating procedures, even as inspections found both fuel control switches to be serviceable and functioning as designed. According to DGCA, applying force in an incorrect direction can cause unintended movement due to the angular design of the switch. Recounting the incident, the regulator said the issue was observed during engine start in London, resolved after checks, and the flight was completely safe. Subsequent inspections carried out in the presence of DGCA officials found all parameters within prescribed limits. Earlier, Air India, remember, ruled out any malfunction in the fuel switches of the Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner aircraft that was grounded after a pilot reported a glitch during a London to Bengaluru flight. So that's the latest that's come in now. That's the angle which is now being probed, and the latest reaction that's come in from the DGCA. Speaking of civil aviation, another incident is being spoken of widely on social media and once again has prompted officials to look into what's allowing this. Yes, we're talking about an Indigo aircraft and Air India plane how their wingtips collided at the Mumbai airport. This happened last night. Both planes were carrying passengers at the time of the incident. The Indigo flight had landed and was taxiing while the Air India flight was waiting to depart. Passengers were safely disembarked from both aircrafts. Investigations into the incident are currently underway. But questions being asked on how was this allowed. Both these planes, an Indigo and an Air India aircraft, were on the runway. They were taxiing. One had just arrived, the other was waiting to depart, is when their wingtip collided. And worryingly, both the aircraft still had passengers on board. Unfortunately, everyone was moved out of the plane safe and fine, so that's one big relief. But investigators, of course, now jumping in to understand what really went wrong here and how was this allowed. Shifting our focus now briefly to West Bengal, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is ramping up her campaign against Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar, rallying opposition parties to support an impeachment motion against him. Speaking to reporters in Delhi, Mamata Banerjee stated that her party, Trinamool Congress, will back any impeachment motion brought by Congress or other opposition parties, despite acknowledging they might not have the necessary numbers to pass it in the parliament. She also said it will be good to have it on record. This move comes after a tense meeting between Mamata Banerjee and the election commissioner on Monday, where she accused him of being arrogant and also insulting her delegation. Mamata Banerjee also alleges that Special Intensive Revision or SIR of electoral rolls in West Bengal targets minorities and TMC supporters, claiming 33% of the state's population are minorities. In the meanwhile, Mamata Banerjee is also expected to appear before the Supreme Court, personally arguing her petition against the SIR process alongside other petitions filed by TMC MPs.
नंबर हमारा नहीं है, लेकिन इम्पीचमेंट भी हो सकता है ना, प्रोविजन तो है, रिकॉर्ड तो हो जाएगा। हम लोग तो जब कोई पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट में होता है, हम सब इकट्ठा होकर ही काम करते हैं, उसमें हमारा कोई एतराज नहीं है। इतना आदमी मर गया एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को सेटिस्फाइड करने के लिए, आपका गलती का क्यों माफी होगा? इतना लोग मर गया तो आपका खिलाफ में कुछ नहीं होगा? बहुत सारे लोग तो सुसाइड नोट भी रख दिया।
उनका जो चोरी करने का आदत है टीएमसी का वोटर लिस्ट में, विद द हेल्प ऑफ सेक्शन ऑफ द ब्यूरोक्रेट एंड एम्प्लॉइज, इस बार ये लोग रोक रहा है। इलेक्शन कमीशन, सीईओ ऑफिस और खास करके जो मॉडर्न सिस्टम है, सॉफ्टवेयर एआई फोटो स्कैन है, चोरी पकड़ रहा है मॉडर्न सिस्टम। इसमें उसका दिक्कत हो रहा है। चोरी करके वोट जीतने का जो एजेंडा है उसमें थोड़ा गड़बड़ हो रहा है, इसलिए उन्होंने पर्सनल अटैक की रास्ते में चल रहा है।
पूरा देश में जो बांग्लादेशी पकड़े जाते हैं सो यहाँ से आई कार्ड लेके जाते हैं, रेशन कार्ड, वोटर कार्ड, आधार कार्ड यही बनता है। यहाँ बोरे में मिलता है, जो बांग्लादेश से आता है उसको पकड़ा दिया जाता है और साथ जाके देश में, पूरा देश में हंगामा करते हैं, इंटरनेशनल एक्टिविटी करते हैं। और ममता बनर्जी का, उनका पार्टी के लोग ये सारा काम करते हैं। ये सब नाम छट जाएगा और वोटर लिस्ट से, इसलिए ममता बनर्जी का टेंशन है, इसलिए दिल्ली में जाके रो रही हैं।
And shifting our focus to more from Northeast, Yumnam Khemchand Singh, a senior BJP leader and former Manipur cabinet minister, set to become the next chief minister of the state. The state has been under president's rule, remember, for nearly a year now, following N. Biren Singh's resignation on the 9th of February last year in 2025 amid ethnic violence in the state. Now, Khemchand Singh, 62, is a two-time MLA from Singhmai constituency, serving as Speaker from 2017 to 2022 for the Manipur Legislative Assembly. He held key portfolios like rural development, education, municipal administration in N. Biren Singh's cabinet. Interestingly, he also visited Kuki Zo relief camps in December 2025, seen as a peace-building gesture. The government formation includes Khemchand Kipgen from Kuki community as potential deputy chief minister, aiming for community representation. She is a BJP MLA from Kangpoki constituency since 2012, holding portfolios like commerce, industry, textiles, social welfare under Biren Singh's government once again. Married to the chairman of Kuki National Front, named her as active in community work and youth empowerment. However, her acceptance faces resistance from Kuki Zo community leaders demanding written assurances on their core demand for a separate union territory before joining government. Residence rule ends on the 13th of February 2026. So that's the several developments shaping up slowly as we speak in Manipur. Reactions coming in as well. Let's play them out.
They have elected Yumnam Khemchand as the new leader of their legislative party. So at least one stage they have resolved. They have been squabbling among themselves at the expense of the people of the state, who are going through a terrible and unprecedented tragedy in the history of Manipur. The union government decides to install the government. It is, you know, that this has never been the will of these MLAs to form the government. It is the Delhi's decisions. So to that extent, I am a little skeptical about how far they will be able to represent the will of the people of the state.
All right, that's all from me for now. We're heading into a quick break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Our non-stop rolling coverage on the India-US trade agreement on the other side. We'll be right back in just a bit.
Inside details that are now being revealed to us by top government sources. CNN News 18, your channel viewers, the one which has always kept you ahead on this story, that no compromises will be made on the interests of Indian farmers and dairy-sensitive sectors. These sectors will remain protected, and that's a commitment that this government has made to the electorate and to all those constituencies who are involved in these sensitive sectors. Be buying oil from non-sanctioned entities only.
The discounts on Russian oil had come down substantially in the last year or so. Since Rosneft and Lukoil, the two biggest Russian oil producers, were sanctioned internationally, it just didn't make sense to buy Russian oil anymore.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
And shifting focus, some more breaking news. This is coming in from the state of Manipur. Yumnam Khemchand will be the next Chief Minister of Manipur. After years of President's rule, he was elected to the Manipur Legislative Assembly from the Singjamai constituency in both 2017 and 2022. He's a two-time MLA. He also served as the Speaker of the Manipur Legislative Assembly from 2017 to 2022. In 2022, he was also appointed as a Cabinet Minister in the second Biren Singh government. So after a lot of political turmoil, now the new Chief Minister of Manipur has been picked, a former Speaker, a former minister in the state government, and a two-time MLA. Yumnam Khemchand will be the next Chief Minister of Manipur. So some semblance of political stability coming to the fore in the state of Manipur after so much strife and President's rule. I'm joined by my colleague Kamalka Sengupta on the broadcast. Kamalka, decode the calculation beyond when it comes to the appointment of Yumnam Khemchand.
Well, definitely this is something, a very big breakthrough, and the most important thing here is the balance. Here we can see that the Chief Minister is Yumnam Khemchand, who is a Metis. You see the Deputy Chief Minister's name kept in, who is from Pakopri, and she is a Kuki. So this is, I think, the biggest break that the central leadership could do, that making the Metis and the Kuki sit in one table. And this is, I think, a big breakthrough which has come up with the situation that has been prevailing. We really need to get in that what is the ground reality right now and what are the reactions that are coming from both the camps, because this definitely a very positive point where the government formation takes place. Chief Minister, who is from the Metis community, the deputy came from Kuki community. Let me tell you, Khemchand was known as the person who is Biren Singh. That is also very important, because how Biren was compelled to the Chief Minister, he was compelled to give his resignation. And Khemchand is one of those, that group He's the leader of that group who wanted Biren Singh to step down. So obviously the twist is definitely there. But the biggest breakthrough definitely is that the Meiteis and Kukis coming together and formation of the government. Because 430 it was managed. Otherwise, the president's rule would have, they would have sent the president, and that could have political also because of election. So definitely, we'll have to see what is the reaction to the ground. Where the Kukis are really happy with this deputy minister's post. But obviously a big breakthrough where again Manipur will see a government where the CM is Khemchand, a very veteran leader, former speaker, and also known to be a person who is against former.
Right, Kamalka, stay with us. Just to recap for our viewers, this is another big development, as Kamalka is also pointing out. Nemcha Kipgen, a Kuki-Zo MLA from the Kangpokpi area, is likely to be appointed the Deputy Chief Minister. So you will have she will be the first woman and the first Kuki-Zo to hold that coveted post of Deputy Chief Minister. Also, what we are learning is that another Deputy Chief Minister is likely to be from the Naga People's Front, the BJP's alliance partner. So, Kamalka, clearly a lot of calculations going into these appointments, the Deputy Chief Minister and the Chief Minister, to ensure that the communal turbulence is kept in check.
Definitely, Naga and then the Kukis, specifically the Meitei and the Kukis. And let me tell you, Home Minister will be Govindas Kontajayam, who is also very important. He has very strong, contender for the post of Chief Minister. His name was coming for the last 2 days. But Yumnam Khemchand actually will become the Chief Minister. So if we see, we'll have to really see that how the cabinet is being planned. As we know that they'll go back and obviously this discussion will take place. We have to make a cabinet which shows the right traffic of Manipur, both the plains and the hills. That's going to be the biggest challenge.
Right.
Because we know that how the two sides are divided.
Right. Thank you, Kamalka, for sharing that for us. So as you can see, the modalities of power and the key posts are being filled by the BJP and its alliance partners. So you will have the next Manipur Chief Minister has been picked. He is a two-time MLA who has served as Speaker of the State Assembly and has also served as a minister in the Biren Singh government. Yumnam Khemchand will be the next Chief Minister of Manipur. And as my colleague Kamalka was pointing out, reports suggest
Hey there, a very good morning to all of you. You're watching Morning News at 7 a.m. I'm Akanksha Swaroop.
I'm Kritsween Valia, and over the next 1 hour, we keep our sharp focus on the India-US trade agreement. There's a last late night meeting that took place between External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his US counterparts. So details coming up in just a bit. First up, the top headlines.
Sources in the government say that India and the United States have agreed on the first phase of the bilateral trade agreement. India and US will now work on finalizing the joint statement, followed by signing of the deal.
And after the initial details of the India-US agreement, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met US Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington ahead of an inaugural ministerial on critical minerals.
Politics erupts over the trade deal. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has blamed Rahul Gandhi for not letting the government share details about the US-India trade deal in the parliament because of the ugly scenes created by him.
And amid the showdown in Parliament over Rahul Gandhi's China claims, 8 opposition MPs suspended. More drama and protests expected today.
Amid the ruckus in the Parliament, Prime Minister Modi to speak in the House likely at 5 p.m.
In other news, Air India Indigo wingtips collide on ground at Mumbai Airport with passengers on board. No injuries fortunately reported. DGCA probe underway.
So after Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump confirmed the biggest trade deal between India and the US, so far it's the first tranche of the bilateral trade agreement which has been arrived upon, and top government sources have informed CNBC TV 18 that India and the US have inked the phase 1 of a landmark bilateral trade deal. Now they'll finalize a joint statement after signing the pact.
$30 billion of Indian exports will face 18% of US tariffs, down from 50%, remember, which is going to give a big boost to our labor-intensive sectors like textiles and jewelry, sectors that fall under Section 232, though, will primarily concern iron, auto and steel, and this remains unchanged. So they're not going to face any impact of the negotiations that are shaping up as we speak. The spotlight is now shifted entirely to the meeting that took place late last night between S. Jaishankar and his US counterpart.
Meanwhile, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has lashed out at the leader of opposition of the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, for only nitpicking, while the entire nation is hailing Prime Minister Modi for this historic agreement. Listen in to what a Commerce Minister had to say.
यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका के साथ एक बहुत ही बढ़िया ट्रेड डील, जिसका देशवासियों को कई महीनों से इंतजार था, संपन्न किया है। भारत के भविष्य को चार चांद लगाने वाला ट्रेड डील माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में कल रात फाइनलाइज किया गया है। ये जो ट्रेड डील की गई है, ये मात्र एक ट्रेड डील भविष्य का, ये आगे आने वाले दिनों का शुभ संकेत है, जब भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था और तेजी से आगे बढ़ेगी। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने हमेशा एग्रीकल्चर और डेयरी इन दोनों सेक्टर्स को संभाला है, उनके हितों को संभाला है, और इस क्षेत्र में लोगों को उज्जवल भविष्य मिले और मौके मिले, आमदनी बढ़े, उसके लिए लगातार काम किया है।
मेन बात यह है कि हमारे प्रधानमंत्री को कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर दिया गया है, और हिंदुस्तान के जो किसान हैं, आप सब समझिए कि इस ट्रेड डील में आपकी मेहनत को, आपके खून पसीने को नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने बेच दिया है, और वो इसलिए बेचा है क्योंकि ये कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड है। सिर्फ आपको नहीं बेचा है, देश को बेचा है, इसलिए मुझे वहां नहीं बोलने देना।
बड़ा दुर्भाग्य है कि राहुल गांधी जैसे नकारात्मक सोच रखने वाले नेता देश को आज गुमराह या भ्रमित करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। मैं घोर निंदा करता हूं राहुल गांधी जी की। झूठ और फरेब के नाम पे वो लोगों को गुमराह करना चाहते हैं। उनको देश की तरक्की से कोई लेना देना नहीं है। राहुल गांधी जी को क्या मिर्ची लगती है? राहुल गांधी जी को देश की प्रगति से नफरत है, और उनके साथ जुड़कर डीएमके पार्टी के नेता हो, तृणमूल के नेता हो, उन्होंने जवाब देना पड़ेगा देश की जनता को कि इस नकारात्मक सोच के पीछे वो क्या चाहते हैं। यहां तक कि कुछ दिन पहले तक विपक्ष के नेता भी हमें पूछ रहे थे कि कब होगा यूएस डील, और मैं हैरान हूं, ये डबल स्टैंडर्ड्स जो राहुल गांधी जी बार बार दिखाते हैं।
All right, so as far as the Parliament session yesterday was concerned, yesterday it began on a very warm note where Prime Minister Modi was felicitated, but it ended up in a ruckus. And I can see Pallavi Ghosh is joining me on the broadcast. Pallavi has been tracking the Parliament session for us. So Pallavi, we've seen the suspension of 8 MPs and the entire Lok Sabha was in fact marred by adjournments. What can we expect today?
See, first of all, I think there's going to be an objection which will come in from the opposition parties. And why is it that the Commerce Minister made a statement outside the Parliament? Why was that statement on the Indo-US trade deal not made inside the floor of the House? But I think Piyush Goyal has got that covered because he did not make a mention to that repeatedly, that I would have ideally want to make it inside the Parliament. The speech was prepared, which is what we were talking about since morning. He flew down from Mumbai despite a medical emergency, only because he wanted to make that statement. But because of the repeated ruckus on the floor of the House, there was no opportunity. The Speaker had to repeatedly adjourn the House. So what's going to happen today? First of all, as we all know, Rahul Gandhi has written a letter to a Speaker. He is saying that this is a denial of democracy where he was not allowed to speak as an LOP. This is something which I think the Congress party is going to take it up even more. The suspended MPs have made up their minds that they're going to protest. They're going to sit in protest outside the Makar Dwar. I think the mood within the Congress doesn't matter if all of us are suspended, because they are going to make this up and build this up as a death of democracy and also vindication of their earlier claims that the opposition parties are not allowed to speak on the floor of the House. I wouldn't be too surprised, Akanksha, if I find that during the Prime Minister's response to the motion of thanks, they do create hangama on the floor of the House. There could be concerted efforts being made to ensure that the Prime Minister is not about to speak. That's an apprehension as far as the Treasury benches are concerned.
And in the meanwhile, given the noises that we've seen, not just from inside the Parliament, Pallavi, otherwise as well, we've seen several in the opposition come out to raise question, hurl the surrender jibe at the government for the trade agreement that we've heard of so far. The government, as per sources, has come out to clarify some of these details being shared by the opposition in trying to draw a narrative. Would you want to quickly come in on that and tell us how the story is
So,
changed?
Christine, so we have very categorically been told by government sources that, for example, there are certain agro products which are not really extensively manufactured in India. We were given an example of almonds. Now, if American almonds are coming into India, it doesn't really hurt Indian farmers. So those agro products will come in, which is not going to hurt the Indian farmers. The rights and the privileges and the concerns and livelihood of the Indian farmers are going to be protected. For example, American corn coming in is not going to affect Indian production of gehu. So these examples were thrown out. We are going to get a detail of this only in a couple of days once the nitty-gritty of the bill is announced.
All right, many thanks to you, Pallavi, for bringing us those details. Take care of yourself as you cover the Parliament session in this biting cold. But let's also break down for you what this tariff truce that's being discussed about is. We are also getting you an inside scoop. Remember, as far as sources within CNBC News 18 are concerned, they've in fact informed us that India-US phase 1 of the trade deal has been agreed upon. They're working now on finalizing a joint statement. $30 billion of Indian exports are facing 18% tariffs now, which has been brought down from that whopping 50%. How is this going to benefit India? You're looking at labor-intensive exports that are going to gain a competitive edge, especially in the South Asian market, where remember Bangladesh, Vietnam, Indonesia, all of these countries were competing with us. There's no change in Section 232 of the tariff sectors, particularly iron and steel. India is also intending to buy more US oil, LNG, planes and metals. So purchases from US are going to increase in several sectors, but over a period of 5 years. So it's interesting that you're looking at a phased increase. Purchase of $500 billion worth US products has been pledged by Prime Minister Modi, as had been declared by the US President in that Truth Social post as well. $44 billion worth products remain tariff exempt. There's been no change as far as sectors in pharma, phones, minerals have all been exempted from tariffs. The red lines currently still exist, and they're very much in sectors of agriculture, dairy, they've been fully respected, as government sources have revealed to Network 18. On that note, let me also introduce my guests today. I'm joined in by Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, who's a former diplomat, also joined in by Troy Blackwell, who's the former Deputy Chief Communication Officer of Kamala Harris, also joined in by Richard Russo, who's a Senior Advisor at CSIS. Let me quickly go across let me first go across to Troy. Troy, what is the sense that we are getting in across the political spectrum in Washington? Is the overall, American polity on the same page with regards to the announcement that's been made a day ago?
No. First, thanks for having me. But second, to answer your question, no. I think there's a lot of concern and confusion about what this deal actually means. In particular, we have to focus on what we know and what we don't know. And what we do know about this current situation is that about 3 weeks ago, President Trump and his administration invaded Venezuela. They have taken over the oil reserves. And I feel like that this is what this is about, right? This is an attempt to get Prime Minister Modi to divest from getting oil from Russia, but I don't think it has anything to necessarily do with Ukraine. I think it really has to do about building up the oil reserves in Venezuela. But it's a very tricky situation because the oil reserves in Venezuela have been dilapidated. It's going to take about a decade before they can actually be fixed. And so it's also not cost effective for the Indian government. In terms of what we're getting out of this, I'm not entirely sure. I think the devil is in the details, and we haven't gotten all the specifics of the details yet. I know I heard you mention earlier that Prime Minister Modi has committed to $500 billion over 5 years, but in 3 years, President Trump won't be in office.
That's actually something that a lot of people are saying, Troy. A, yes, the devil lies in the details, but B, also this is something that we're hearing from a very erratic US government. So can they be trusted entirely is one thing that we've heard of.
Ambassador would like to perhaps come in on that as well. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, if I could quickly come in on this aspect of how, both sides are taking Donald Trump's claims with a pinch of salt, given that even EU, which has been against Russia, continues to phase out its, trading with Russia when it comes to crude oil. And what is your assessment of the Indian assurance that's being claimed of completely doing away with Russian oil? At the same time, as Troy was highlighting, will Venezuela be able to meet our existing demands?
Well, first of all, let me say that I have not come across any report which indicates that India has given an assurance that it will completely do away with purchases of Russian oil. President Trump said that India has agreed to stop purchasing Russian oil, but from the Indian side, there has been no confirmation. Nonetheless, as I see it, the deal is good for both America and India because the tensions which had come into the bilateral relationship are being eased. We can now work towards strengthening various aspects of the relationship, including, of course, the strategic partnership. Then, of course, I think it's a win-win situation for Indian exporters and American consumers because if tariffs on Indian exports to the United States come down from 50% to just 18%, then naturally Indian exports will go up. And this has led to the Indian exporters breathing a sigh of relief. They were very concerned earlier. But now with the tariffs coming down, they are very relieved. Then, of course, the price line in America will come down. So the consumers there will also stand to benefit. Nonetheless, there are various things which still need to be clarified. I want to see what the details emerge in the deal. The previous speaker was absolutely right when he said that Venezuela's oil industry is completely decimated, and it will take a lot of effort to restore it. For Venezuela to export oil to replace the oil that was coming from Russia will take a long time because
So, Prithvi, I also want us to touch upon this very critical minerals ministerial meet that's taken place. We should also keep our focus on that. And I'd like your thoughts and, of course, take it forward with Troy and Ambassador as well.
I mean, a lot of expectations were set on that particular meeting, Troy, with regards to the trade agreement, the conversations that are shaping up, the first set of details that have been announced by President Donald Trump. We've seen a confirmation of the same by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but not to the extent that the president has gone about detailing what India will do. How do you look at that? Instead of letting officials handle the fine print, Donald Trump chose to lay out the terms himself. And like I said, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Troy, is not confirmed to all of those details shared by President Trump. Your thoughts on that? And of course, the interaction that took place between External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his US counterpart, Mr. Rubio, last night.
You're right about that. And I think that when we look at the situation, I think Prime Minister Modi is doing what is best for his country, which is that it's not cost effective, this deal that he has with President Trump. For starters, the relationship and the way that President Trump is going about the U.S.-India relationship is, one, not how you treat a friend. But number two, it's just not cost effective. Right now, the oil that India is getting from Russia is at $16 US a ton, whereas the oil that is being proposed that would eventually come from Venezuela would be at $61 US a ton. So it's just not cost effective. So I would start there. And so I think that's where Prime Minister Modi's focus is in terms of whether or not he's going to actually specify how much he's going to give in this deal. I don't foresee that. I don't foresee him being pulling out of the deal that he has with Russia. I also know that there's been some disagreements, in terms of around Ukraine. Something that I think is going to happen from the American perspective is that I know that Prime Minister Modi has this digital service tax that he's trying to eventually implement. There's no talks yet about whether the U.S. will be a part of that, but I do think that President Trump is going to use the current tariffs at 18% as a negotiation tool for that in the future. So we're still waiting to see how that is going to play out.
But Troy, I'm sure you'll also agree that when it comes to tariffs, one never knows what one is looking at. This is yet uncharted territory. Look at EU. They had finalized a deal with the United States, and yet he slapped them with an extra set of tariffs. He's doing that with South Korea again. So it's a very unpredictable domain when it comes to tariffs. But going to also quickly bring in my third guest. I'm joined in by Richard Russo, who's a senior advisor at Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you, Richard, for joining in. Let's talk about the current Trump administration's focus on economic security and how they have maintained that now the way forward for strategic cooperation with India, or say any of their allies, is going to be through economic security, whether that is to do with India becoming part of the Pax Silica or even the recently held ministerial meet on critical minerals. Richard.
Yeah, I think part of what President Trump is getting at, there is at least a kernel of truth to it. A lot of markets like India do have relatively high tariffs. And of course, India's got a lot of non-tariff barriers as well that have precluded some level of American exports. And so, but a lot of countries that he targeted for tariffs as well, that's not exactly the case. Some of the targets actually had lower tariffs on American goods than what we were threatening to issue with counter tariffs. The great news, at least in the U.S.-India lane, is that the tariffs haven't really meant that much. Yeah, it's 50% kind of a top line, but the applied rate actually is quite a bit lower because there's huge exemptions. So if you look at what actually happened in U.S.-India trade over the last 12 months, and the story is actually quite good, we've got a 16% increase on goods trade. And a lot of that was kind of front-loaded in the beginning, but even the last 3 months of the year, when you actually had the tariffs fully implemented, India was still exporting to the United States $11, $12 billion a month, which if you go back a year and a half ago, would have been pretty close to all-time records. So tariff, certainly it's a tool to play with, and the bite hurts. We did see a little bit of drop in imports from India, but we're overreacting in terms of what these tariffs meant because there was a lot of carve-outs for it. It wasn't quite as draconian as the top line made out, and that's the way that President Trump has approached a lot of trading partners so far. The top line looks a little scary, but the actual implementation sometimes can be a little bit less.
All right, just stay with me because let's also break down for our viewers how India stands to gain, at least, because remember, there's one big breakthrough, which is that the 50% tariff has been now slashed to an 18%. So you're looking at labor-intensive goods industry gaining a lot out of this announcement. It's the garments and apparel that stand to gain. Indian exporters are now going to face a lower 18% duty compared to competitors like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Even Vietnam and Indonesia were standing at a higher tariff percentage. And this is going to enhance India's competitiveness in major markets. Krithvi.
Textiles, for instance, I mean, this was one sector that was suffering major losses in the wake of these high tariffs. So 50% down to 18% is a big gain for the textile sector. India remains a top 3 global exporter of textiles and clothing, is why it was feeling the pinch the way it was. And now we're going to see an increase in the orders for sure, driven by supply chain diversification away from China. Let's not forget the other sectors, leather, gems, jewelry, footwear, all of that also stands to gain.
You know, there's going to be renewed competitiveness for summer season orders, which is expected to get improved in terms of even manufacturing capabilities, our competitive pricing according to the market trends as well. Look at carpets, another very interesting product. Indian carpets are regaining market share, especially when you compare it to, say, Turkey, which is driven by better product quality, design, in addition to cost competitiveness. Let's also talk about marine products. Remember, marine farmers, especially in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, all of them were, in fact, their sales had come to a screeching halt. Indian shrimp is becoming more affordable and competitive in the US markets. There's particularly high demand when it comes to Indian shrimps and seafood exports.
There's
Pharmaceuticals is, of course, another
continued
sector.
growth in exports to emerging markets, bolstered by trade agreements. MSME, that's been the big story. It's also been the big story in Union Budget 2026-27. Electronics, eased regulations, incentives, they're going to be boosting export competitiveness for small-scale electronic component manufacturers. And this is also as per trends that have been reported in engineering goods. So all of these, you know, are patterns that are likely to emerge going forward.
You're also expecting relief for exporters in auto components and electrical equipment, with strong growth projected this year itself per data. Now, China factor. This is one factor we really need to actually factor in, because Indian goods are gaining a competitive edge over Chinese products. China, remember, also remains at a higher tariff level, particularly when it comes to textiles and apparel. On that note, I want to quickly bring in Ambassador Dayal, who continues to stay with us, as do the other guests. Ambassador Dayal, you know, this announcement arrived on a day which was very interesting, because the Chinese envoy to India, Ambassador Xu Feihong, had a very interesting message to deliver. They were celebrating the Chinese Spring Festival, and he's reminded India, especially when it came to Prime Minister Modi's meeting with President Xi in Tianjin A. He's also alluded to the historic commonalities that both the countries are sharing, both the countries' common belief in Atmanirbharta, self-reliance, and how both China and India believe in the philosophy of Vasudev Kutumbakam, or world is one. What is your assessment of this message arriving on a day when Prime Minister Modi and the US President had a conversation?
Well, you're right. The timing is very interesting. Everybody had noted the fact that President Trump's statement came less than a week after India and the EU had concluded an enormous trade deal. Then, of course, India was in the process of resetting its ties with China. And you referred to the visit of the Chinese envoy and the message that he conveyed about the historic China-India ties. The important point is that the message went across to Washington that India was not coming under pressure. President Trump had put enormous pressure on India, but India had found ways to escape that pressure, to lessen the pressure, and was recalibrating its ties with a whole host of nations. Now, let me come back to the trade deal briefly. A previous speaker said that it really doesn't amount to all that much, the concessions that he's making, but they do, because as you pointed out, there are a number of labor-intensive sectors where our exports had come down, And this was a cause of enormous worry. Now, with the easing of tariffs and their reduction from 50% to 18%, our exports of these labor-intensive industries will go up. Also, the fact that we
But
have
so
a
will the competitiveness, Ambassador Dayal, isn't it? Is that going to be challenging for India, and to what extent do you think?
Well, what will be challenging?
I'm saying it's also going to give a rise to competitiveness. So we're going to see increased US products in India, and there's obviously going to be a little bit of a criticality attached to that entire story going forward then.
Of course, there will be an increase in the arrival of Indian products, American products in India, but then the bilateral relationship should flourish. We have always emphasized that. Let me also just state one very important fact. Trade is just one aspect of the bilateral relationship. The relationship is multifaceted, and we are now trying to strengthen our strong strategic partnership, and the trade deal tensions were coming in the way. So let the tensions ease and let the overall partnership grow. That is what
Absolutely. And we are yet to expect a formal deal right now. Much of it is still in the realm of speculation, but many thanks to all our guests for joining in on this discussion. Now, remember, on one hand, you've had the MAGA base, which has, of course, been drawing the line in the sand about how there should be greater pressure being mounted on India in terms of these tariffs. But on the other hand, you also have the Indian American community, which has been rallying for Washington and New Delhi to finally arrive on the same page. And so CNN News 18 has been bringing you all those voices. Let's listen in to what Nisha Biswal, one of the entrepreneurs from the United States, has had to say. Nisha, thank you for joining in on CNN News 18. You've, of course, welcomed the trade agreement, which is yet not a deal. And you've also focused on how much will rest on the implementation of it. Why do you say so?
Well, first of all, great to be with you. Look, it's an exciting moment in time right now after nearly a year of watching U.S.-India ties be strained because of the trade tariffs. So this is an important moment. It is not a trade agreement per se. It's a phase one agreement. There are certainly more chapters to be negotiated, but it's an important moment. I think, first of all, removing the 50% tariffs and replacing that with an 18% rate. While 18% is not ideal, it does actually place India much more competitively vis-a-vis its peers across Asia and frankly the rest of the world, with only Europe and the UK being able to have better outcomes. Secondly, I think that it removes a huge irritant in the relationship. I think the US and India have important issues that they need to be able to collaborate and cooperate on, important strategic challenges that they face, areas where we have a great deal of convergence. Right. And so this removes an irritant and allows that cooperation to continue. And I think it's a really positive sign that Minister Jaishankar is here in Washington this week for the Critical Minerals Summit, where both India and the US and many of our partners across Europe are facing some serious challenges from Chinese dominance in the critical mineral supply chain. So I look forward to that resumption of US-India cooperation.
It's very interesting that you talk about the critical minerals ministerial meet being presided over by the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. India has one of the largest reserves in the world, but lacks the technology to refine it. The US also has its set of reserves. So how can India and the United States join hands, especially when it comes to challenging the Chinese dominance when it comes to rare earth minerals, which, as we all know, are playing a very crucial role in securing supply chains in defense equipment, AI, semiconductors, etc.?
Absolutely. And let me just tell you, here at the Asia Group, where I'm a partner, we are facing with our clients these kinds of questions all the time. As you see that critical mineral supply chain challenges have really grappled, obstructed the automotive sector, semiconductors, as we look at the AI boom, having that secure and reliable supply of critical minerals is so important to our defense and security establishment, but also to our economies. And I can tell you from my time at the Development Finance Corporation that some of the issues that companies grapple with is Chinese market manipulation of critical minerals, so that when you have investment from other countries to try to support processing and diversification of processing and diversification of supply chains, China is able to intervene because it controls so much of the supply to manipulate the market to make it really difficult for investors to be able to invest and for operators to be able to operate. And so I think what the summit is going to do is look at, bring together like-minded nations and look at these problems and talk about, what are some of the things that
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
And shifting focus, some more breaking news. This is coming in from the state of Manipur. Yamnan Khemchand will be the next chief minister of Manipur. After years of president's rule, he was elected to the Manipur Legislative Assembly from the Singjamai constituency in both 2017 and 2022. He's a two-time MLA. He also served as the Speaker of the Manipur Legislative Assembly from 2017 to 2022. In 2022, he was also appointed as a cabinet minister in the second Biren Singh government. So after a lot of political turmoil, now the new chief minister of Manipur has been picked, a former speaker, a former minister in the state government, and a two-time MLA. Yamnan Khemchand will be the next chief minister of Manipur. So some semblance of political stability coming to the fore in the state of Manipur after so much strife and president's rule. I'm joined by my colleague Kamalka Sengupta on the broadcast. Kamalka, decode the calculation beyond when it comes to the appointment of Yamnan Khemchand.
Well, definitely this is something, a very big breakthrough, and the most important thing here is the ballot. Here we can see that the chief minister is Yamnan Khemchand, who is
Rahul Gandhi later wrote to Speaker Om Birla claiming he's being silenced on national security matters and also called this a blot on democracy. The government defended the suspension, accusing Rahul Gandhi of misleading the House by quoting unauthenticated documents. First up, let's hear it from Rahul Gandhi, what his objections were and how this played out in the parliament yesterday.
Speaker, sir, if the issue is about me quoting a magazine which I have authenticated, I am happy not to quote it directly. No problem. But I have to be allowed to speak about it.
Yeah. Honorable LOP,
you have,
Shri
Speaker,
Rahul Gandhi ji,
Chairman, sir.
You have been given permission to speak on the Honorable President's speech.
I am speaking.
What are you telling? What permission are you telling to LOP?
Chairman, sir, I am objecting to the word permission. That is not the correct word, because I am not given permission by anyone. I am leader of opposition. So I'm just objecting to that. And all I am saying is I want to make a statement about what happened between China and India and how our Prime Minister reacted to it. Why am I being stopped? Sir, in Ladakh, in eastern Ladakh, there was a conflict. Our soldiers were killed.
It's very unfortunate that Parliament has been treated like this by Mr. Modi and Amit Shah. They wanted to demolish the parliamentary procedures. They are not allowing the leader of opposition to speak in the parliament. Whole day yesterday, his speech was not allowed. 4 hours his time was allotted for Congress party. He was not allowed to speak.
100%, 100%.
Welcome back. We're getting in breaking input, and thank you for in fact tuning in to our 7 a.m. news. In fact, all the latest is over here for you, and we also have quite a bit of international breaking inputs coming in. In the latest, what we're being told is that Muammar Gaddafi's son has been shot dead.
In more details that have come in, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, son of Libya's late leader Muammar Gaddafi, was killed by armed gunmen who stormed his home. Once seen as his father's potential successor, he faced a warrant from International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity and had also planned a presidential run before elections were postponed. The attackers disabled surveillance cameras. Their identities remain unknown. Reports also indicate that Saif had previously ignored warnings about security risks. That's the latest coming in. Akanksha, it's a big update that's coming in. Ignoring some safety warnings is what we're learning in the past. But if we just go by details, Saif also remained a prominent and polarizing figure in Libya's political scape. So,
and what's in fact important to remember over here, Kritsween, is that in 2015, a Libyan court had even in fact sentenced him to death in absentia. So right now we do not know what exactly is the reason behind his killing. The motive behind that killing remains unascertained, but it is indeed a big news story coming in because as we all know, he is the son of Muammar Gaddafi, and Gaddafi's own rule was checkered in, say, a very controversial kind of a past. He was somebody who believed in Arab nationalism, even a bit of socialism, and his rule was in fact marked by also belief in direct democracy. Yet it was also it's got a very controversial history in terms of how he's also remembered for human rights abuses. But why Gaddafi's son has in fact been killed remains unknown as of now. But as I said, that he was also a very controversial figure, and between, like I was telling you, in 2015 the Libyan court had sentenced him to death.
And not just that, if we just go through a few more details, and you can come in on this. 2015 is when he was sentenced to death. He was also wanted by the International Criminal Court, which issued an arrest warrant against him for murder and persecution. And then cut to 2017, he also went underground to avoid assassination after he was released by the militia in 2017.
Apparently, he was accused of suppressing peaceful protests, and he led to a lot of violence is what they believed. And he was in fact also underground for quite some time. But as I said, that, the information that's pouring in is that the gunmen actually stormed inside the house and they shot him dead point blank. What was the motive behind this killing? One never knows, given that he was considered as a very controversial figure, the son of Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi himself had a very checkered past. So we'll have to see as more details are awaited in terms of what exactly led to his death. All right, with that, we're slipping into a quick break. Stay tuned to all the latest news and updates that are coming in on this broadcast at 7 a.m. Prithween and I will be bringing you all the latest.
We'll see you in a bit.
Inside details that are now being revealed to us by top government sources. CNN News 18, your channel viewers, the one which has always kept you ahead on this story, that no compromises will be made on the interests of Indian farmers and dairy-sensitive sectors. These sectors will remain protected, and that's a commitment that this government has made to the electorate and to all those constituencies who are involved in these sensitive sectors. Be buying oil from non-sanctioned entities only.
The discounts on Russian oil had come down substantially in the last year or so, since Rosneft and Lukoil, the two biggest Russian oil producers, was sanctioned internationally, it just didn't make sense to buy Russian oil anymore.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Rahul Gandhi later wrote to Speaker Om Birla claiming he's being silenced on national security matters and also called this a blot on democracy. The government defended the suspension, accusing Rahul Gandhi of misleading the House by quoting unauthenticated documents. First up, let's hear it from Rahul Gandhi, what his objections were and how this played out in the Parliament yesterday.
Speaker, sir, if the issue is about me quoting a magazine which I have authenticated, I am happy not to quote it directly. No problem. But I have to be allowed to speak about it.
Yeah.
Honorable LOP, Shri Rahul Gandhi ji, please listen.
Chairman sir.
You have been given permission to speak on the Honorable President's speech.
I am speaking.
What are you telling? What permission are telling to LOP?
Chairman sir, I am objecting to the word permission. That is not the correct word because I am not given permission by anyone. I am leader of opposition. So I am just objecting to that. And all I am saying is I want to make a statement about what happened between China and India and how our Prime Minister reacted to it. Why am I being stopped? Sir, in Ladakh, in eastern Ladakh, there was a conflict. Our soldiers were killed.
It's very unfortunate that Parliament is being treated like this by Mr. Modi and Amit Shah. They wanted to demolish the parliamentary procedures. They are not allowing the leader of opposition to speak in the parliament. Whole day yesterday, his speech was not allowed. 4 hours his time was allotted for Congress party. He was not allowed to speak.
100% it's wrong. जब तक उन्होंने बिल्कुल हमें प्रवोक नहीं किया, हम तब तक अंदर नहीं गए. हम सुनते रहे, रिक्वेस्ट करते रहे, हाथ जोड़ते रहे कि प्लीज लेट LOP.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying tuned. Shifting our focus to another bit of breaking news update. This is an update that's been shared by BJP spokesperson Shehzad Poonawalla on his mother's health. He says his mother sustained injuries in a hit and run in Pune. The spokesperson said his mother was seriously injured after being deliberately hit by a car in Pune, appealed to the police to swiftly arrest the accused. In a series of posts on X, Shehzad has also alleged that an unidentified person intentionally ran a vehicle over his mother and fled the scene. He says his mother would undergo surgery soon and also sought prayers for her recovery, then shared a photograph from the hospital showing his mother on the hospital bed with medical monitoring equipment around her, and then appealed to the police to ensure the person responsible is quickly apprehended and brought to justice.
All right, Yesha Kotak is joining me on the phone line with more details. Yesha, as we were just highlighting, of course, Shehzad Poonawalla has accused that this is a deliberate hit and run. What are you learning in terms of the motive? Any details shared by the police so far?
So yes, in this case, of course, we've seen that the Poonawalla family has taken over to social media, speaking about the fact that their mother was hit while she was waiting at the fuel pump. Now here, of course, they've tagged the city.
All right, we seem to be losing that connection with Yesha at the moment, but in fact on the left side of your screen you can see that CCTV footage which has been accessed. As you can see, the car reverses and Shehzad Poonawala's mother very much in that footage. As you can see, she's standing there in the corner. And what's extremely shocking, Kritsween, if you can also weigh in on these visuals, is that she's very much in the line of the vision of the driver, and yet they run over. Yesha is back with us. Yes, Yesha.
Absolutely. In fact, in this very instance, we've seen that BJP spokesperson Shehzad Poonawala's mother was in fact waiting at a fuel pump in the visuals, as we can see. While she was a little away, there was a huge gap between the previous car and where Shehzad Poonawala's mother was standing. But the car that was parked at that fuel pump, when it took a reverse, was where his mother was hit. Now we've seen that the Poonawala family, they've taken to social media to in fact speak about this. They've also shared the video wherein they've said that that his mother has been seriously injured and have called it a deliberate hit and run in the Pune, and have asked the police to swiftly arrest the accused. This incident, in fact, comes in as we've seen that that Poonawala has alleged that an unidentified person intentionally ran the vehicle over his mother and fled this scene.
Right.
In fact,
That's actually the big allegation coming in from Shehzad, Yesha, isn't it? That he says that this was done intentionally. And if you closely look at the footage that we're playing on your screens as well, slowly this man continues to reverse the car until the car hits Shehzad's mother. So there may be merit to that claim as well. Yesha, any word so far on the police investigations? Have they begun really? Has the man behind the wheels been apprehended already? What more do we know?
so far, when it comes to Pune police, they have not issued any statement on this very incident. But what we see is that in a series of posts, not only Shehzad but his elder Tehseen has also shared a couple of videos, and they've tagged not only the Pune City Police but also the Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. So yes, here as of now we have to wait to understand from the police as to what is the further course of action that will be taken, or whether the accused in this case has been identified or not. Yes.
So, in fact, just to take our viewers through that post that has been shared by Shehzad Poonawala, he's in fact tagged the Pune City Police as well as the Commissioner of Police and Pune, Maharashtra Chief Minister as well, Devendra Fadnavis. He's also urged for people to actually send out prayers for his mother. It's in fact extremely sad that he's had to share that image of his mother who's all set to go through surgery. Perhaps that surgery is already done. Yesha, if you can also take us through Shehzad's mother's condition at the moment, given that in that photograph Shehzad had spoken about how she'll be undergoing surgery. Is the surgery done? What are you learning of her condition?
So yes, when it comes to the condition of Shehzad's mother, as of now, she has been admitted to the hospital wherein she underwent a surgery. In fact, details speak about how she had to undergo a hip surgery today. And as soon as the incident came in, she was admitted to the hospital. As of now, her condition is fine. She's recovering at the hospital. But when it comes to the Pune police, so far is to wait to issue the statement. The Poonawala family has gone ahead to issue the statement that the mother of Shehzad Poonawala is fine, and her vitals are fine, and she's been admitted to the hospital where she's recovering as of now.
Okay, Yesha, quickly just give us a lowdown of the series of social media posts that have been posted by Shehzad, because yes, he began by saying that this was done intentionally. That's one. What more has he said? Let's not forget he's the national spokesperson of the BJP. He's a political commentator, turns up for daily news programs, so on and so forth. But what's the pointed allegation that he's raising, and how does he want the police to sort of take this forward?
Absolutely. So, in a series of posts that Poonawala has in fact put out on his social media, he said that an unidentified person intentionally ran his vehicle over his mother and fled the scene. In fact, he's also said that this was a deliberate attempt where she's been left seriously injured. Now, this incident took place late last evening as far as social media posts are concerned. In the next post, Punawala also said that his mother have to undergo surgery and was asking people, to pray for his mother. However, this incident has expressed the anger by the Punawala family, and they've asked city police to, in fact, act on this very incident as soon as possible.
Absolutely. What is very shocking is that the Pune police has still not issued a formal statement with regards to what exactly happened over there. We await a formal statement coming in from the police, also sending in prayers of strength and speedy recovery for Shehzad Poonawala's mother. With that, it's a quick wrap from our end. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. We'll see you in just a bit.
Inside details that are now being revealed to us by top government sources. CNN News 18, your channel viewers, the one which has always kept you ahead on this story, that no compromises will be made on the interests of Indian farmers and dairy-sensitive sectors. These sectors will remain protected, and that's a commitment that this government has made to the electorate and to all those constituencies who are involved in these sensitive sectors. Be buying oil from non-sanctioned entities only.
The discounts on Russian oil had come down substantially in the last year or so. Since Rosneft and Lukoil, the two biggest Russian oil producers, were sanctioned internationally, it just didn't make sense to buy Russian oil anymore.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Rahul Gandhi later wrote to Speaker Om Birla claiming he's being silenced on national security matters and also called this a blot on democracy. The government defended the suspension, accusing Rahul Gandhi of misleading the House by quoting unauthenticated documents. First up, let's hear it from Rahul Gandhi, what his objections were and how this played out in the Parliament yesterday.
Speaker, sir, if the issue is about me quoting a magazine which I have authenticated, I am happy not to quote it directly. No problem. But I have to be allowed to speak about it.
Yeah. Honorable LOP,
you have,
Shri
Speaker,
Rahul
sir,
Gandhi ji,
Chairman, sir.
You have been given permission to speak on the Honorable President's speech.
I am speaking.
What are you telling? What permission are you telling to LOP?
Chairman, sir, I am objecting to the word permission. That is not the correct word because I am not given permission by anyone. I am leader of opposition. So I'm just objecting to that. And all I am saying is I want to make a statement about what happened between China and India and how our Prime Minister reacted to it. Why am I being stopped? Sir, in Ladakh, in eastern Ladakh, there was a conflict. Our soldiers were killed.
It's very unfortunate that Parliament is being treated like this by Mr. Modi and Amit Shah. They wanted to demolish the parliamentary procedures. They are not allowing the leader of opposition to speak in the Parliament. Whole day yesterday, his speech was not allowed. 4 hours his time was allotted for Congress party. He was not allowed to speak.
100% it's wrong. जब तक उन्होंने बिल्कुल हमें प्रवोक नहीं किया, हम तब तक अंदर नहीं गए. हम सुनते रहे, रिक्वेस्ट करते रहे, हाथ जोड़ते रहे कि प्लीज let LOP speak.
Honorable opposition leader tries to raise his voice, but unfortunately it was not allowed. It was then we started our protest, raising our slogans, and we got onto the table. So it was purely in a democratic manner. When he was denied and other speakers were given the right to speak, we objected it.
Sir, what really transpired today, because we saw somebody talking to you very disrespectfully?
While the house was going on, somebody mentioned addressing the chair as "yeah," so which I thought was not correct because there has to be decorum in the house, and somebody else was supporting that. What's wrong in it? So I was calling for maintenance of decorum. That's what it says.
Raja Baring says he did not call you Yar, and he said nobody called you Yar. It is just that the NDA is playing games against them.
I think they'll be recording the videos, they'll play it and see who said what.
देखो, इस विषय पे मैं बहुत बता चुका हूँ, सदन में भी मैंने कहा है कि राहुल गांधी बार बार सेम चीज रिपीट करता है कि बोलने नहीं देते हैं, और हम लोग उल्टा उसको कह रहे हैं कि आप बोलिए। वो बोलता है नियम से बाहर बोलेंगे। जो लोकसभा राज्यसभा में जो रूल्स ऑफ बिजनेस प्रोसीजर है ना, जो कंडक्ट करने का रूल्स होते हैं, ये रूल्स हमने नहीं बनाया। ये रूल्स राहुल गांधी जी के दादा दादी के समय में बनाया है।
क्या कहेंगे मैम आप? है, एकदम लोकतंत्र है, सबको बोलने की इजाजत होनी चाहिए, सबकी बात सुननी चाहिए। क्या कहेंगे मैम आप? है, एकदम लोकतंत्र है, सबको बोलने की इजाजत होनी चाहिए, सबकी बात सुननी चाहिए।
हमें एंटी नेशनल बताया। एंटी नेशनल वो होते हैं जो पहली बार देश के इतिहास में डी-एस्केलेशन का ऑर्डर यूएस से लेते हैं। एंटी नेशनल वो होते हैं जो नेशनल इंटरेस्ट को ताक पर रखकर रशियन ऑयल से लेकर ईरानियन ऑयल से लेकर चाबहार पोर्ट तक बाहर रहने को तैयार हो जाते हैं। एंटी नेशनल वो होते हैं जो 0% टैरिफ हमने यूएस के प्रोडक्ट्स को लगाते हैं और 18% टैरिफ लगाने को कबूल हैं। मैं आज तक मैंने कभी भी फॉरेन पॉलिसी पे कभी ऐसा बयान नहीं दिया, पर मैं इसलिए दे रही हूँ क्योंकि ये नेशनल इंटरेस्ट के खिलाफ है। आप उसके लिए हमें एंटी नेशनल कहिएगा। एंटी नेशनल शायद यूएस के पैमाने से हो सकते हैं, पर इंडिया के पैमाने पे हम देश को आगे रखकर देश के हित में बात कर रहे हैं।
And shifting focus to more news coming in, the Karnataka excise scam triggered an overnight dharna inside the Vidhan Sauda by BJP and JDS MLAs who are demanding that resignation of Excise Minister R.B. Timapur following a Lokayukta liquor probe over corruption charges and allegations against him in liquor licensing. The opposition alleged corruption worth 6,000 crore rupees, citing a letter from Karnataka Wine Merchants Association, a Lokayukta trap of an excise official, and an alleged audio clip naming the minister. The BJP leaders accused the Congress government and Chief Minister of shielding the minister, calling Karnataka an ATM for the Congress High Command. Let's hear all the reactions that have come in on this story.
Hey there, a very good morning. You're watching CNN News 18. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. The budget session in the parliament is on, and that happens to be our top focus in this broadcast.
My name is Hem Kaur Saroy, and as Akanksha mentioned, there's a lot that we've packed for you in this hour. Let's get started. Here's a quick check at the headlines that we're tracking for you at this hour. Let's get started. Sources in the government say that India and the US have agreed on the first phase of the bilateral trade agreement. India and US will now work on finalizing the joint statement, followed by signing off the deal.
After India-US deal finalized, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar meets US Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington just ahead of an inaugural ministerial meet on critical minerals.
And politics erupts over trade deal. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal blamed Rahul Gandhi for not letting the government share the details about the US-India trade deal in Parliament because of the ugly scenes created by him.
Amid the Parliament showdown over Rahul Gandhi's China claims, 8 opposition MPs suspended. More drama and protests expected today.
And amid the ruckus in Parliament, Prime Minister Modi to speak in the House likely at 5 p.m. today.
Air India Indigo wings collide on ground at the Mumbai airport with passengers on board. No injuries reported so far. DGCA probe is underway. So There's been a heated showdown that erupted in the Lok Sabha when Rahul Gandhi insisted on referencing former Army Chief General M.M. Naravane's unpublished memoir, Sparking Chaos. 8 opposition MPs, 7 from the Congress party and 1 from the CPIM were suspended for unruly behavior, throwing papers, climbing tables and even addressing the chair as Yar. The suspended MPs include Hebe Eden, Amrinder Singh Rajavaring, Manikam Tagore, Gurjeet Singh Ojla and Prashant Pradole, and in fact Dean Kuriakose, Chamala Kiran Kumar Reddy and S. Venkatesan from the CPIM. Now the leader of opposition of the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, later wrote to Speaker Om Birla claiming he's been silenced on national security matters, calling it a blot on democracy. The government has defended the suspension, accusing Rahul Gandhi of misleading the House by quoting unauthenticated documents. Listen in.
Speaker, sir, if the issue is about me quoting a magazine which I have authenticated, I am happy not to quote it directly. No problem. But I have to be allowed to speak about it.
Yeah.
Honorable LOP,
You have,
Shri
Speaker,
Rahul
sir,
Gandhi ji,
Chairman,
please
sir, Chairman, sir,
listen.
Chairman, sir.
You have been given permission to speak on the Honorable President's speech.
I am speaking
What
on
are you telling? What permission are you telling to LOP?
Chairman, sir, I am objecting to the word permission. That is not the correct word because I am not given permission by anyone. I am leader of opposition. So I'm just objecting to that. And all I am saying is I want to make a statement about what happened between China and India and how our Prime Minister reacted to it. Why am I being stopped? Sir, in Ladakh, in eastern Ladakh, there was a conflict. Our soldiers were killed.
All right, and a breaking news update that we're getting on this. Congress sources vindicated that if the leader of the opposition is not allowed to speak in parliament, its MPs may block Prime Minister Narendra Modi from speaking as well. They warned that more MP suspensions will not deter them. And several Congress MPs have also stated that they will not participate in the proceedings if Rahul Gandhi is denied the chance to speak. Rahul Gandhi, as you know, has already written to the Speaker regarding the issue as well.
All right, Pallavi Ghosh is joining me live on the broadcast with more details. So, Pallavi, should we now expect more MPs getting suspended, given that they've already indicated there will be no cooperation coming in from the Congress when Prime Minister is to speak?
The government certainly has made it very clear, and so has the Speaker, that a decorum will have to be maintained on the floor of the House. You cannot have a situation where the MPs are going to jump on the table, they're going to throw papers at the Speaker, because that's completely a violation of the parliamentary rules. Now, in case the Congress MPs end up doing this once again, I'm sure they are going to face suspension. That was a very strong message we went from the government and from the Speaker yesterday. I would expect a lot of confrontation in Parliament today, especially in the Lok Sabha. The Congress has made up its mind that one, Rahul Gandhi should have been given a right to speak. Second, the suspension was unprovoked. The suspension was illegal, and this is not correct for the government to stop anyone from speaking, especially if he's a LOP. So what is really going to happen next? As of now, the Prime Minister is expected to respond by 5 p.m. I'm sure the Congress MPs would create a ruckus by making the point that you don't allow the LOP to speak. Why should we allow the Prime Minister to speak? And of course, the Congress mood is that if you want to suspend all of them, or we are fine being suspended, they're going to wear it as a badge of honor, and they're going to project it as yet another case of how the opposition voice is being muzzled.
Right, Pallavi, I remember we were discussing this earlier as well, how, of course, this is now turning into a fight for transparency, and, of course, they're furthering this narrative that they are being silenced yesterday as well. And in the past 2 days, we've seen that the session was adjourned before one could finish saying Parliament. Today, when that address is expected at 5 p.m. as well, how do you see this entire thing play out? Pretty much we're at a stalemate at this point.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's pretty much a stalemate. I think the attempt which was being made by the government to reach out to the opposition has, as of now, not worked. what is going to be critical over here to see is how the rest of the opposition behaves. Yesterday, when the speaker called out the name of TMC and DMK MPs to speak in place of Rahul Gandhi because he did not allow Rahul to speak on the article, all of them refused. Will that happen again today? Will the Trinamool Congress MPs, DMK MPs, all of them say that one hobby? Because they would also want to raise their point of view because they are also poll-bound state election MPs. I mean, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal. So I don't think they will be too happy with one round country getting all the attention. They also wouldn't want to miss out on the opportunity to protect their point of view. But I don't know whether they would want to do it at the cost of Rahul Gandhi not being allowed to speak. So I would watch out for one. How is it that the Congress MPs are going to respond once they reassemble? And second, will there be an opposition unity at all in Lok Sabha?
All right. Many thanks to you, Pallavi, for bringing us all those details. Pallavi will also be going live at 9 a.m. from the Parliament. On that note, we're getting in more breaking inputs. According to government sources, in fact, Prime Minister Modi's response has already been scheduled for 5 p.m. today. So far, there has been no change in the schedule of Prime Minister's reply. Government has urged upon Speaker Om Birla to, in fact, go and have a word with other opposition parties, some of whom have not been very happy with the Congress holding the House to ransom yet again. Within the opposition, some parties like the TMC have been saying off the record that they are very upset that Rahul Gandhi is taking away their opportunity to speak on important issues and possibly even the last session ahead of their elections. Let's quickly take that forward with Payal Mehta. So, Payal, given this is a very critical year for the TMC because of the upcoming assembly elections in Bengal, what is the sense that you're getting from TMC, especially when it comes to Congress party and Rahul Gandhi time and again holding the House to ransom and disrupting the proceedings?
Well, after what we've seen in the national capital, where Mamata Banerjee has been holding, holding fort as far as the SR issue is concerned, I'm sure the TMC MPs wanted to make a mention of that in their speech on the reply to the president motion as well. So that is something which has not been allowed, given the fact that Rahul Gandhi is completely had taken the House, in his stride. Over the last 2 days, 18 hours of time was allocated for discussion on the subject, after which the Prime Minister's reply was scheduled to take place at 5 p.m. Today as well. So multiple people, have been speaking to other senior leaders within the opposition party saying that, is this correct? Shall we not be allowed an opportunity to speak? We have elections coming up. This is our last chance. So I've been privy to those conversations in the parliament corridors. Having said that, the government as of now is very confident, Akanksha, that as per the schedule, Prime Minister's address is really going to happen. And it is not a new thing that the opposition parties will come out and create a ruckus. Sometimes they stand right before his desk for around 2 hours and protest while the Prime Minister is really speaking. So that is something which the government is expecting. But the government has urged upon the Lok Sabha Speaker to also speak to the other opposition parties and see if they want to draw a sense of semblance and they want to make sure that the discussion continues at least today, because Rahul Gandhi's subject has moved on. Other speakers were speaking. In fact, just before the House adjourned yesterday, Harish Balayogi, the TDP MP, had begun to make his speech as well. But we saw very, very unruly scenes yesterday, after which suspensions were announced. It does not really matter to the opposition parties whether they're getting suspended or not. They want to prove a particular point, but on their front, the government will also be very insistent that the Prime Minister's time is very precious and the Prime Minister will speak at 5 o'clock this evening, is what they have been saying.
Right.
So let's see. They will have a strategy meeting of the government in the morning. Let's see what strategy they come up with. But yesterday there was a long meeting that Rajnath Singh had with the Lok Sabha Speaker right after the House got adjourned.
Absolutely. Now, Payal, as you mentioned, the Prime Minister's time is very precious. So is everyone else's. And of course, that is something that has also created some sort of a rift with a lot of people saying that they aren't getting the opportunity. And as Rahul Gandhi and the Congress, of course, is trying to prove a point there, perhaps they're missing out on the most basic point here, that this truly is an opportunity for everyone to come forward and put forth their points as well. And it's really taking away a lot from that as well.
Well, absolutely. Everybody's time is precious, so they should make most of the time, is what the government is really saying. 18 hours of time was not allocated by the government alone. Him. Everybody got together in that all-party meeting, in the floor leaders meeting, and they said, okay, yes, we will be discussing that subject for 18 hours as well. It's a different thing that Rahul Gandhi is not allowed any discussion to really happen if the government is concerned over the last 2 days, because he's been insisting on something which cannot really be allowed as per the rules. You in fact saw yesterday Om Birla did not take chair at all because he was extremely upset with the fact that Rahul Gandhi insulted him despite his multiple rulings coming in from the chair. Rahul Gandhi did not adhere. That is something which is not part of Parliament convention as well. So we'll have to just wait and see how this day starts. The morning definitely shows you the light of the day. You're going to have about 3 or 4 hours available once the question hour finishes at 12 o'clock before the Prime Minister really speaks. But like I said, as of now, there is no change of plan as far as the government is concerned. They are very insistent. They say we know in any case they will be creating ruckus when the Prime Minister speaks. I remember on multiple occasions that's been the story. So let's wait and see what the government strategy is, if at all there is any change of stand. But the Prime Minister, like I said, has scheduled to be speaking today. There's a smooth discussion which is happening in the Rajya Sabha, and the Prime Minister is scheduled to reply tomorrow. So he can't be expected to reply in both houses tomorrow if today's business does not get conducted.
All right. Many thanks to you, Payal, for bringing us all those latest details. Let's see if Speaker Om Birla has a word with the Congress party and if he's able to sort of drill in some sense. And if we do see a peaceful speech being delivered by Prime Minister.